Are there any announcements? The one that I want to make sure everybody knows is that this Sunday is the Festival of Faith. This is the second annual, and it looks like we're going to get close to 1,000 people there. So I just really want to encourage everyone to go. It's going to be an extraordinary event. They've worked really hard. Father Ron Rollheiser from Oblate School of Theology is going to be opening with his keynote. And the mayor will also be speaking around 3 o'clock, as well as lots of breakouts and opportunities to hear about other faiths, music, insights, art. So I encourage everyone to go. It's no cost, but they do ask that you register. It helps in terms of planning to know how many people are going to be around. So I hope that many of you decide to go and take some friends and maybe some other folks from your congregation or organization with you. Are there any other announcements this morning?
There is one. Kendra has her hand up.
Oh, Kendra.
Or not.
Anyone else? I do know one little report from Pathways to Hope. We had the largest crowd ever this year with 1,600. So we've got something going on. We're just going to keep doing it.
It finally let me
I want to
unmute myself. I'm sorry. I was having issues unmuting myself.
Boy, I understand this morning.
So it's not really an announcement, and I'm not trying to put you on the spot, Ann, but I don't think anybody needs reminding that today is 9/11. And I was wondering if Ann would maybe say a brief prayer, and if we could have like a moment of silence for our fellow Americans that lost their lives on this day. If you wouldn't mind, Ann. If not, if we could just have a moment of silence, I think that would be amazing.
I think that's an excellent idea. I bet Peter's not with us this morning because they always do something on 9/11 in honor. I think a good moment of silence. As we remember all those from 9/11, but also all those who continue to suffer on this day, loss, basic human needs, community. Kendra, thank you for reminding us. And so I want to introduce Pastor Diane Garcia this morning. It seems like an appropriate transition. A survey has been taken this summer on those who have found home in San Antonio as they migrated. So we're going to hear that survey this morning. And Diane, thank you for all that you do and all the many ways you continue to bring organizations and congregations together in compassionate collaboration. So thank you for doing that. And thank you for bringing us this information today.
Thank you, Anne. Thanks so much. I'm happy to be here with you all. And I am the pastor of a church called Roca de Refugio. We're a church of mainly immigrant families here in San Antonio, and we have a ministry helping immigrant families to settle here in San Antonio, to support them if they're in crisis, to become stable and independent again. And I am also the facilitator for the Welcoming Communities Coalition, which is a coalition of all the organizations in the city that serve immigrants. So their leaders, staff members come, we meet once a month. And we're still in some ways, I think, forming what our best routes for supporting the community and advocating for the community are. But one of the things that we did this summer was to create and distribute a survey to anyone from another country who's here in San Antonio who's being served by one of these organizations. And that survey, we gave it in Spanish, English, Pashtun, and French. And so we just finished that first round. And so I wanted to share some of the results of the survey that we got. I think it's very important that as much as we can, we're trying to put numbers and stories to what's happening in the community right now, because a lot of it is happening unseen. And a lot of families are suffering without talking to anyone. And so the more data that we can pull, the more people that we can talk to, the more ways that we can make those voices heard, the better I think that the needs of the community will be known, and the better we can advocate for what's happening right now. So that was the idea behind the survey. So we put it together. All the organizations in the Welcoming Communities Coalition got a copy digital. We did paper, and distributed it to people that they were serving. And we got, for this first round, a little over 200 responses. I'm just going to share with you some of the data that we got from that, which I think is particularly telling. There's a lot of data, and if you're interested in that, I can certainly share with you the more detailed numbers. I can share with you the surveys that we handed out, all of those things if you'd like to see more. But just from a top level analysis, we had, first demographically, we had 45% of our respondents were from Mexico, and there were 13 other countries represented. We did not ask for any identifying information for obvious reasons. We thought that would make people feel nervous to take the survey, but we did ask for basic demographic information. So country of origin, how many people are in the household, female or male, those kinds of things. And what we found was that food insecurity, so when we get down to the questions about what your greatest concern is for your safety, food insecurity is the greatest concern at the moment in the immigrant community here in San Antonio. And I think we can probably pretty accurately extrapolate these results to the whole community. Obviously, it might be a bit skewed because the people taking the survey were coming in to get resources from these places. So we can expect that perhaps this is a slightly larger percentage than you might find in the population as a whole. But I would feel that it's, within a 95% confidence interval. I used to do statistics, so it's pretty accurate. I think that we can say that these numbers probably hold for the immigrant community as a whole in San Antonio. There's 12% of the San Antonio population are from other countries, which I think works out to, oh my gosh, I had this number somewhere. Someone can do 12% of the current San Antonio population. It's something like 200,000. But so if we think about these percentages as applying to that whole population, I think it's very telling about what's happening in the community right now. So food insecurity, about 20% of families that filled out the survey said that they are having to request food assistance. And about 20% said they definitely need food assistance. So there were two questions. What have you been experiencing, and what are your needs? And on both of those, the highest answer was food. And I think that is a representation of, or a symptom really, of what we're seeing, which is a lot of people are losing their jobs or having their hours cut or their pay cut, and they're not able to meet the basic needs of their family right now. The most commonly marked household size was 6 or more. So people are living in large households. I think that might also reflect sometimes families living together to save on the cost of rent. I think that's very common. And the most common number of children that families had was 3. So again, these tend to be families with young children. These are not mainly people who are adults living on their own. There were some of those, but most of them are families with children and 3, within the range of 2, 3, 4 kids. The most commonly marked household income was 0 to 1,000. So the majority of the families filling out the survey, or not the majority, I shouldn't say, I think it was 25%, but that was the most commonly marked income bracket. So about a quarter of the families filling out the survey are receiving $0 to $1,000 every month. And so, I think this is also representative of what we expected to see, and what we expect to see in the months to come is that families are really struggling. They're not able to bring in enough income right now, and that's being seen in their needs for food and for rent and utility support, and that is likely to increase if they don't have income now. That if you get a job, it doesn't happen right away. And so even if all those people in the 0 to 1,000 income bracket got a job, it would still take some time for the community to recover. And quite honestly, I don't expect any of those people, or very few of them, to get a job who right now don't have a job. So that's very concerning, I think, when we think about the long-term health of the immigrant community here in San Antonio, that very few of them have enough income. And when we break down the numbers of people who were in that lowest income bracket, a quarter of them have 4 or more children and live in households of 6 or more people. So there are people who have basically no income, who are living with lots of kids in households with lots of people. And so that's extra concerning, just thinking about the sustainability of the situations that they're in, and also thinking about how we can best support these families. I did an interview with someone the city has been thinking about creating a crisis nursery here in San Antonio, which is a place where families can drop off their kids if needed for an emergency situation in the family. And they said, we've interviewed a lot of organizations and people around the city and people within the city, and they're just telling us that the situation in the immigrant community isn't that big a deal. And I said, oh my gosh, no, it's a really big deal. And I think it's kind of going under the radar because these families don't tend to advocate for themselves and don't feel safe going to places where they might be able to say, I need help, and be sort of noted. I think that there's a lot of struggle happening under the radar. And I think that that's what these numbers tell us. There's also, we did a question about the number of people who had someone in their family detained or deported. Because of course, it's not just the lack of work and the struggle to feed their family that's happening, but several people have had someone in their family, often a wage earner, detained and perhaps still detained, or since then has been deported. And that approximately 5% of the people who filled out the survey have someone in their family who has been detained or deported. So if we extrapolate that number to the percentage, to the total number of immigrants in the city, then we can estimate that about 12,000 people in the city have been detained or deported. So that means somewhere around 12,000. I would say with an interval, right, a margin of error of between 10,000 and 15,000 people in our city have been taken by ICE and are no longer here. Which I think tracks pretty well with the total numbers in detention and the numbers of people that are being deported every day. To give you some context, there are right now 60,000 people in detention, which is the largest number of people we've ever had in detention. And there are 1,500 people being deported every day from our country as a whole. So, if we think of San Antonio as a proportion of that, having 10 to 15,000 people in our city who have been detained or deported, that makes sense with those numbers in our country as a whole. So I think that we can say that those are pretty accurate. Just based on my experience in my community, about half of the people that we know who have been detained or deported are parents with kids here. And so I would guess that somewhere around 5,000 to 7,000 families in the city are now without a parent. So there's kids in the city who have had one of their parents detained or deported, which is pretty striking, I think, when you think about just the numbers. And I think gives us a good point of departure for advocacy, talking about family separation. It's sort of family separation in reverse, and talking about how we can support those families with kids and significant others left behind. That also tracks with the qualitative comments that we had. So we had a section at the end where families could write whatever they wanted to write, other thoughts or things they wanted to share. And the most common comments were about trauma, anxiety, and stress of children. So most of the comments said, I'm just really worried about my kids. My kids are really depressed since their dad has been detained. My kids are under a lot of stress. They're scared to go to school. Those kinds of things were very common in the qualitative section, in the written section. I pulled off one longer comment, which I'll read and translate on the fly here, which says, this situation has been one of the most challenging for my family that we've ever had to go through. The fear and uncertainty that we felt, to not know one day if we're going to come back to our houses or if we'll never return, has been extremely difficult. I've had to put my life on pause, and because of many of these aspects of fear, and each day it feels like the situation's getting worse. And now I know that I won't be able to finish university, which has been a really hard golpe, which is like a hard hit, I guess is the phrase in English. Many of you may know that in the undocumented population, the immigrant population here is now being counted as international students at university here in Texas. And so they're being charged at a rate that was, I think, 3 times what they were being charged before. And so many students have had to drop out. Continuing with what this person said, this is something that I didn't think could happen. Many times my teachers had told me that education is the most important tool and no one can take it away from you. But now I'm not sure of this anymore. I hope that the situation gets better, and one day I'd like to try I'd like to try to make the situation better. So that was that person's response on the survey. So it's, I think very telling and really tragic in a way, but also so important to bear witness to what these families are experiencing. We are working on sharing these results with the city, with the public. We're trying to find the best ways to do that. And hopefully get this information out there. We're also planning to give another survey in the winter. I think we'll probably distribute it December, January to get another data point and hopefully be able to get more responses. I'd really love to get between 500 and 1,000 responses just to give it a little bit more, more weight as a survey. And we're also probably going to adjust some of the questions and include some other information that other organizations wanted to know. But we're still working on that, and we'll be working on that in the next few months, and then we'll hopefully distribute it in December. So that is a broad overview of what we saw, and I'd love to answer any questions that you have. And if you'd like a copy of the written results or the numbers, just let me know. You can put your email in the chat and I will send you a copy of whatever you'd like to see.
Diane,
that's a lot of information to take in.
It is, and not all that positive. I want to let you know that last night I pushed a update to Sacred that for the search, you can type in your search in virtually any language. And still displays the result in English or Spanish, but you can type the search terms in any language, Spanish, Pashto, Chinese, whatever.
Yeah, that's great.
Thanks, Billy. So I'm guessing that most people who are listening, Diane, are wondering, what can I do to help?
Yeah, that's definitely the question I get most often. I would say a couple of things. And is there someone who could take down those email addresses and just put them in a separate place somewhere? Because I don't want to lose them when our meeting ends.
Yes, I'll get them to you, Diane.
Thank you so much. So, I can speak from my experience as the head of an organization leading serving immigrants in the city, that money is really helpful. So fundraising and sending donations and sharing this information with other people, of course, to try to encourage them to understand what's going on, to know the truth about what's happening, and encourage them to donate, to give, is really, really helpful. It's unfortunately just the way that things are. Everybody is short on their rent. Everybody needs a $50 HEB gift card. Everybody needs $50 so that they can speak to their husband who's in detention right now. It's a very difficult time. And so donating money or fundraising is really helpful. And I don't want to put too much into that, because I think people get funny about money, but I also don't want to not say that, because it is important. And I think that it's something that you can do that is genuinely very meaningful and helpful. We also have people who give a lot of toiletries, food items, like toilet paper is really helpful. Those kinds of, sorry, that's my dog. Those kinds of materials are very helpful for us to be able to distribute, and I know for other organizations as well. I can also send you, if it's helpful, if you'd like it, a list of the organizations that are part of the coalition. If you're not sure where to send what you have, I can send you that information for the organizations that are serving immigrants in our city right now. And then I know lots of organizations have volunteer programs. So if you'd like to get really involved and spend some time, we have lots of ways for people to, serve directly with immigrant families, take someone to the doctor when they need to go, visit someone in detention. There's all kinds of those different volunteer opportunities. There's also, I know American Gateways does accompaniment for the courthouse for when people have a courthouse date or an ICE presentation date at the ICE office. So you can get connected to American Gateways if you're interested in being a volunteer to accompany. I know the Young Center is looking for volunteers to support unaccompanied minors in their cases. And so there's a lot of different ways if you're interested in really directly getting involved in volunteering. Those are the things that I would point you to. And I would encourage you to try to reject the narrative that there's nothing you can do, that it's hopeless, that any individual has no power. I feel like that sometimes. I think that's the message we're meant to be feeling, right? We're meant to feel overwhelmed and powerless. And so I think we just have to try to reject that as much as we can and do something. Whatever we can do, whatever you can do is important and meaningful and helpful.
And what are you doing in terms of getting this information to city council? What's that process that you're using?
Yeah, so we originally just got on the public comment meeting in June to say, hey, we're doing this survey. We want you to know we're going to meet with you soon. And then Myra Montero, who works at the city, she's the immigration liaison at the city, told us to meet with the specific commissions. So we are right now organizing meetings with the Education Commission, because a lot of our support, I think, is going to be have intersection with the school system, because that is still what we see from our survey is that is still one place where most people are intersecting with city and public services. And we are trying to meet with the county, it's the health commission. I'm not sure the full name, but we are also scheduling a meeting with them. So that's our plan, is to share this data with the city through those commissions that do that specific work.
Mm-hmm. And Myra is a good one to work with, so that's good to hear. So, are there other thoughts, comments, questions?
I have one. Do you differentiate at all between illegal immigrants and legal immigrants?
So we as an organization do not. We serve all immigrants, documented or undocumented. And that's because I lead a very small organization that doesn't receive any federal funding or anything like that. There are other organizations in the coalition that certainly say, we're serving refugees or we are serving asylum seekers specifically, and they don't go outside of those bounds.
Yeah, that list I think would be very helpful for everyone. So, however anyone is able to help, then they'd be able to help in ways that would fit them best too. Because no matter where we help, it's going to make a difference.
Great. Yeah, I will send to all the emails in the chat, I will send the quantitative data, the qualitative data, and the list of organizations that are part of the coalition.
Thank you, Diane. Any other thoughts or questions out there? Along with our hopes and prayers that they're with you, but also with all those many who are in need. So thank you for bringing that information and continuing to work forward. I know that you all meet once a month and keep working no matter what. So thank you for doing that as well.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.
Well, thanks everyone for being here at the intersection this morning. And we hope you have beautiful weekends. Please share this information with others. And don't forget that all of these are recorded thanks to sacred.org. And you can find those online and be able to show this information directly to, an adult forum, or Sunday school class, a team meeting, wherever a group might gather that really needs to know what's happening and what the needs are. So thank you, Sacred, for doing that. And thank you for getting that into all the different languages as well. It's a great step. So have great weekends, and we'll see you next week at the intersection. Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Have a
Ann.
blessed weekend.
Bye.